Fascinating, he said, to see different ethnic and national types work and live so well together. Well, it's how we like to think of America. And it's good to know that Miss Liberty is still giving life to the dream of a new world where old antagonisms could be cast aside and people of every nation could live together as one.
America and the world gather for a celebration, coming to this country's golden shores, to New York Harbor, to honor one of liberty's proudest symbols, the Statue of Liberty.
Tonight it begins as ABC presents Liberty Weekend. Dark for the past 2 years, the Ladies' Torch will be relighted by the President, while in cities and towns around the nation, 20,000 new American citizens will be sworn in. Then the entertainment begins. Frank Sinatra, Shirley MacLaine, Neil Diamond, Gregory Peck, Elizabeth Taylor, Debbie Allen, Mikhail Baryshnikov, and more, as the salute to Lady Liberty starts with the gala opening ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, to conduct the Liberty Orchestra in his composition Liberty Fanfare, written especially for this occasion, Mr. John Williams.
The president who has done so much to give the United States the measure of spirit which it presently has about itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gregory Peck.
This ceremony of rededication and restoration will hopefully have a profound effect on the collective conscience of people everywhere. This copper-clad colossus standing in the harbor with upraised torch and crown of light was for millions their first glimpse of America. For millions of others entering this promised land from other directions, the image of liberty enlightening the world was a vision they carried deep within their hearts. As with many other great visions, the Statue of Liberty could be said to have had its birth as the result of a death. In 1865, the assassination of President Lincoln shocked the world. In France, the gifted sculptor, Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi, felt compelled to express his countrymen's deep affection for America with a dramatic gesture. On his first visit here, Providence led him to an abandoned fort in New York Harbor called Bedloe's Island. It was the ideal site for the monumental statue he was planning. In this sketch, done at the time, he named her Liberty Enlightening the World, the lady's torch and radiant crown lighting the way for all who yearn to enter the land of freedom. Returning to France, he soon found the inspiration for the statue's face, his mother. It took 3 years, however, for Bartholdi to complete his design. Construction began in 1876, with funds donated entirely by the French people. Plaster molds of some 300 sections were made to Bartholdi's amazingly accurate specifications. Then copper sheeting was hammered into wooden forms. The entire statue would be comprised of a copper shell, a mere 3/32 of an inch thick. To encourage continued support for this long-term and expensive project, sections were then put on public display. Gustave Eiffel, the brilliant engineer who would soon build his famous tower, was called on to design the statue's iron framework. The virtually hollow structure rose 15 stories, weighed 225 tons, and was ingeniously engineered to withstand winds of 100 miles an hour. In 1884, after 8 years of dedicated effort and a cost of $250,000, the statue was finally completed in Paris. In New York, however, construction of its mammoth pedestal had not yet begun. Only its cornerstone had been set in place. When the statue arrived in New York a year later, packed in 200 crates, the base had not been finished. American donations for completing the work had run out. It was then that Joseph Pulitzer, the newspaper magnate and an immigrant himself, organized a campaign to raise the last $100,000. It would come in pennies, nickels, and dimes, much of it from children. But come it did, and the statue finally gained her foothold in the New World. On a rainy day in 1886, this remarkable gift from the people of France was officially presented to the people of the United States, and a new symbol of hope was given to the world.
At the original dedication ceremonies held 100 years ago, President Grover Cleveland said, "We will not forget that liberty has made here her home, nor shall her chosen altar be neglected. A stream of light shall pierce the darkness of ignorance and man's oppression until liberty enlightens the world." If the Statue of Liberty was the light of hope for millions of immigrants, then Ellis Island was the door of hope. It was the last barrier to entrance into the United States and the first step on the road to citizenship. On Ellis Island, which is undergoing a major refurbishing right now, is a man who would like to tell us more about this historic place. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert De Niro.
This is Ellis Island, a very precious piece of real estate, and this is my son, Raphael, a very important part of my life. I'm very happy to be at this historical place at this jubilant time with this particular person because I believe we are all destined to remember this moment for years to come. Every parent wants to pass on to his children the things he believes are important, and what could be more important than being a part of history? A century ago, the Statue of Liberty became the symbol of welcome to immigrants arriving in New York Harbor after a long, hard journey. But they were now coming in such vast numbers that an obstacle to their final landing was created to control the human tidal wave. Called Ellis Island, it would serve as processing center for all those crammed into steerage. Yet the delay couldn't diminish their excitement, their joyous anticipation. They had come too far, had suffered too much poverty or persecution in their homelands to let this formality dampen their desire to forge a better life. Between 1892 and 1954, nearly 17 million men, women, and children passed through Ellis Island. In 1907, a record year, overworked officials processed 3,000 people a day. Despite the speed of the procedures during this tumultuous period, there was just reason for fear and doubt among the stateless foreigners. A prevalent eye disease, trachoma, or tuberculosis, or mental illness, if detected, was cause for detention and possible deportation. Remarkably, this fate befell only a small percent of those who entered Ellis Island. Age-old family names, if found unpronounceable by the American registrar, would be changed. But the worst was over. A railroad ticket office was provided for those who had hope of a job or relatives to join beyond New York. So now the moment drew near when these immigrants from Ireland, from Hungary, Italy, Greece, from virtually every European nation and the Caribbean as well, would be ferried back to Manhattan, their new lives soon to begin. These faces should seem familiar, for they are the faces of the parents, grandparents and great-grandparents of many of us who are looking at them now. Proud, honest, good faces. The faces of our past, present, and future. The human drama of Ellis Island ended 3 decades ago, but it remains an indelible, haunting part of our heritage. One of the reasons today is so special is because Ellis Island is about to be reborn, if only for a brief moment in time. People have gathered here, as they have in 44 other cities, to prepare for one of the most meaningful moments of their lives. They come to take the oath of citizenship that will make them full-fledged Americans. They are representative of millions who came before them, and each has a story to tell about why and how he came to this moment in time. Some were fleeing from oppression. Some were joining their relatives who were fortunate enough to have arrived earlier. Some came looking for gainful employment, shoemakers and farmers and tailors seeking to ply their trade in an atmosphere of opportunity and respect. And some came with the respect of the world already in their possession, but with a burning desire to dance to a different drummer, to a beat that allowed for growth and freedom of expression. They all harbored dreams of a better life, and sometimes the dreams came true.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today's ceremony has a very special meaning for me, and one that I share with all of you and with millions of others. My grandfather, whose name I bear, came to these shores about 145 years ago, as millions had done before and have done since. His father was an Austrian, his mother was Swiss. After they settled in the Middle West, a plague left him an orphan at about age 10. In 1861, he joined the Union Army, and his service during that war earned him the Congressional Medal of Honor, the highest military honor our country can bestow. A century and a half later, his descendants manifest why we are rightly called a nation of immigrants. Our Constitution is a unique, remarkable instrument. And 200 years ago, it operated to unleash the latent talents and energies and the abilities of every individual who came here, so that each person could develop according to his or her God-given gifts. People were meant to be free. And the great statue that we rededicate today symbolizes not only our freedom, but also the Constitution that guarantees those freedoms and has guaranteed those freedoms for 200 years. It is a symbol not just to the American people, it is a symbol to the people everywhere who want freedom under a system of liberty with order. Now, it is my honor and privilege to ask each of you who seek citizenship to raise your right hand and on this Bible, repeat after me. I hereby declare on oath that I renounce all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince or potentate, or state or sovereignty, of which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by law, that I will perform non-combat service in the armed forces of the United States when required by law, that I will perform work of a national importance when required by law, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. So help me God. Now, my fellow citizens, I congratulate you and ask all present here and in the other ceremonies taking place in the United States to recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance, which is as follows. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At 44 locations across the country, as Chief Justice Berger said, thousands of new American citizens as America opens its arms once again.
Mr. President and my fellow Americans, welcome to the restored Statue of Liberty, the symbol of freedom and hope for all mankind. The statue has particular relevance to the many immigrants whose first glimpse of America was the sight of that towering cathedral to liberty, that monument to hope. But she is treasured by all Americans. We will preserve our God-given liberty for future generations by remaining strong as a nation, by making plain our determination never to let our freedom slip away, and by being an effective ally to those who seek freedom's blessings.
My fellow Americans, the iron workers from New York and New Jersey who came here to begin restoration work were at first puzzled and a bit put off to see foreign workers, craftsmen from France, arrive. John Weir, the leader of the French workers, said his countrymen understood. After all, he asked, how would Frenchmen feel if Americans showed up to help restore the Eiffel Tower? But as they came to know each other, these Frenchmen and Americans, affections grew, and so too did perspectives. The Americans were reminded that Miss Liberty, like the many millions she's welcomed to these shores, is of foreign birth, the gift of workers, farmers, and shopkeepers and children who donated hundreds of thousands of francs to send her here. They were the ordinary people of France. This statue came from their pockets and from their hearts. The French workers, too, made discoveries. Monsieur Weir, for example, normally lives in a 150-year-old cottage in a small French town. But for the last year, he's been riding the subway through Brooklyn. A study in contrasts, he said. Contrasts indeed. But he has also told the newspapers that he and his countrymen learned something else at Liberty Island. For the first time, they worked in proximity with Americans of Jewish, black, Italian, Irish, Russian, Polish, and Indian backgrounds. Fascinating, he said, to see different ethnic and national types work and live so well together. Well, it's how we like to think of America. And it's good to know that Miss Liberty is still giving life to the dream of a new world where old antagonisms could be cast aside and people of every nation could live together as one. We celebrate something more than the restoration of this statue's physical grandeur. Another worker here, Scott Aronson, a marble restorer, has put it well. I grew up in Brooklyn and never went to the Statue of Liberty. But when I first walked in there to work, I thought about my grandfathers coming through here. And which of us does not think of other grandfathers and grandmothers from so many places around the globe for whom this statue was the first glimpse of America? She was silhouetted very clear. One of them wrote about standing on deck as their ship entered New York Harbor. We passed her very slowly. Of course, we had to look up. She was beautiful. Another talked of how all the passengers rushed to one side of the boat for a fast look at their new home. And at her, everybody was crying. The whole boat bent toward her. She was beautiful with the early morning light. To millions returning home, especially from foreign wars, she was also special. A young World War captain of artillery described how on a troop ship returning from France, even the most hard-bitten veteran had trouble blinking back the tears. I've never seen anything that looked so good, that doughboy, Harry Truman, wrote to his fiancée Bess back in Independence, Missouri, as the Liberty Lady in New York Harbor. And that's why tonight we celebrate this mother of exiles who lifts her light beside the golden door. Call it mysticism, if you will. I have always believed there was some divine providence that placed this great land here between the two great oceans to be found by a special kind of people from every corner of the world who had a special love for freedom and a special courage that enabled them to leave their own land, leave their friends and their countrymen, and come to this new and strange land to build a new world of peace and freedom.
Around New York Harbor, people on their feet, clearly agreeing with President Truman, who wrote to his wife, "I've never seen anything that looked so good."
Treasure liberty the American way with United States Liberty coins.
From a helicopter high above New York Harbor, the lady And in the background, the twin towers of the Trade Center and lower Manhattan. What do people think of her? You've heard 1,000 words already tonight. Victor Hugo said in Paris 100 years ago, "Form is nothing without spirit. With the idea, it is everything." Here on the edge of New York Harbor, we're freezing. It's a wonderful show. But you at home, I can assure you, are a good deal warmer than everybody here. In the crowd here, they've wrapped themselves in the cushions on which they were meant to sit. Henry Winkler, the Fonz.
I bring you great thoughts of warmth. It has been years since I sat at my parents' table listening to their stories about when they first arrived and saw the Statue of Liberty. They had just left Germany. They set foot on their first piece of America, Ellis Island. They spent a lot of time negotiating for a nickel to make a phone call to their cousin on Manhattan Island. They were two of the countless new Americans who would absorb the American way and contribute to it at the same time. I admire their courage. I admire the courage of the millions of people that left behind all that made them secure and comfortable. And I admire the courage of the children who left behind a home they just assumed would be theirs forever. Actually, it's because of that courage that I stand here tonight and I enjoy the greatness of this singular country. Children never fail to enlighten me. They never fail to refresh me. And they remind me always that the future of this great country rests in very little hands. I would like you to meet members of the next generation. These children with me tonight represent the thousands and thousands of children whose pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters and dollars brought us to where we are tonight. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
How old are you?
9.
9. Now, you have a story about 365 pennies. When did you first hear about the statue? Did you get a flyer from school?
Yes.
And when you brought it home, what happened?
Well, when my father was in Vietnam, my mom dropped a penny every day when he was in Vietnam, and she said a prayer, and I brought the pennies in.
And your dad came home safely?
Yes.
And he's here tonight?
Yes.
And why did you think those 365 pennies could help the statue?
Well, because my father fought for liberty and freedom.
And that's what the statue stands for?
Yes.
You're great. And you're Michael Haverly, huh?
Uh-huh.
How old are you?
8.
8. Now, on this cookie bin, you have a little drawing of the statue, and she's crying. Now, you drew this 3 years ago. Why?
Well, I wanted to explain my feelings in those pictures about the Statue of Liberty.
Uh-huh.
And that picture is about when the reason she was crying in that picture is we didn't fix her.
Uh-huh. And then you got to meet the president, and while you were on the lawn, you met with the press, and what did you say to the press?
I said, have you donated to the Statue of Liberty? And if you have, please donate again.
And how much did they give you?
$27.
$27. And how much did you bring out of this cookie bin all told?
$6,500.
$6,500, huh?
They heard about it in many languages. They read about it in many books. They dreamt about it on many a cold and fearful night, many a dark and dismal day. They knew someone who knew someone who had gone there, and they knew that one day they would go there too. So they packed what meager possessions they could carry, leaving behind familiar friends, surroundings, and homes. They bid farewell to all that was sure and predictable. And with a prayer on their lips and a vision in their hearts, they came. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Neil Diamond.
Far
state like Maine or Virginia. Freedom ain't across some county line. Freedom is a flame that burns within you. Freedom's in the state of mind. Freedom, 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 freedom. Freedom is a flame that burns within you. Freedom's in the state of mind.
Take them there. They come into America. Got a dream they come to share. They come into America. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of the I sing, of the I sing.
A name, a map, or a flag I see, a certain word, democracy. The million lights I see, but especially the people. That's America to me.
Frank Sinatra, The House I Live In. When we come back, President Reagan will relight Liberty's torch.
She's beautiful, Grandpa.
Was when my grandpa brought me here on the centennial way back in 1986. That's when he gave me this U.S. Liberty coin.
Wow, that's a beauty, too.
Yep, minted by the United States Treasury to celebrate her 100th birthday.
Must be really precious. Is that why your grandpa bought it?
That and something else.
What?
So I could give it to you.
Thanks, Grandpa.
United States Liberty coins, singly or in sets, at banks, savings and loans, and Kmart stores. Keep Liberty in mint condition forever.
So help me God.
So help me God.